Welcome everybody to what I would like to say is going to turn out to be a show about budget equipment, and also being the capabilities of using a mobile device on an investigation, being a mobile phone. We're going to aim for that. Let's see how it pans out. First things first, anyway, we have Adam from Proof, who has a better beard than me, so I'm disgusted in you. Ed, who has no beard whatsoever, but he's got this weird porn tash. Like, I'm sure I might have seen that on, I don't know, TVX. Kurt, who looks like...
I'm just cool as it is, dude. I'm just tattooed up. And...
Do us a favour, Kurt, just take your hat off a second.
You want to...
Just welcome to Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
You look like Michael Douglas.
He looks like he ate Michael Douglas.
Yeah. I'm getting a haircut.
You eat Michael Douglas?
Yeah, I think I'm getting a haircut soon.
I don't think you need a haircut. I think you just need something to pull those drapes together. You'll be fine. Looks like curtains on your forehead.
Hold on, repeat that again, Mo, because we can barely hear you again.
Oh, okay. No, I won't. You didn't need to hear it. I needed to hear it. And everybody else did. That's all that matters.
That was great, Mo.
Nevertheless, that's down the pan. So anyway, the show we're going to start with is with regards to like budget equipment. So to give people an idea of what I mean is I looked into the amount of equipment that Ghost Adventures, the show we're going to say has something to do with paranormal investigating, they put about 25 to 30 grand into equipment for 3 people, which is a lot of money considering I haven't got 25 to 30 grand. I'm lucky if I've got a couple of £100 to throw at equipment at the best of time. And I assume it's the same as everybody else. You've only got as much money as you can class as disposable to put into equipment without obviously, I don't know, get yourself kicked out the house for spending all the shopping money on the new FLIR camera, or doing what Kurt does ever so best. Kurt's actually amazing at it. Is buy yourself too many GoPros.
No, okay. Let me backtrack on that one. I have this habit, and I just want to say this real quick to Adam. And Ed knows all about my bad habit of just buying stupid stuff, testing it out, hating it, and then reselling it on eBay and taking a hit for like $50 or something. Anything like the Oculus, anything like a millimeter with a REM on it, with proximity, anything with a REM pot, I buy it, I see it, I want it, I end up blowing all sorts of money on it, I hate it. And then Mo makes fun of me of it, and then I'm like, well, good point. I guess I got to sell it. So I sell it with a big hit and making no money on it. So now I'm back to just video and audio, and I just think that works best in my book.
Now, do you want to know why I'm smiling while you're saying that? Where technology is concerned, it's like I walk in, drop a little grenade, and then just tootle off. And just leave it for it all just to go to pot for you. I'm sorry, but it is what it is, man. But nevertheless, now that's enough of me and Kurt being terrorizing each other. As I said, we've got Adam from Proof, we've got Ed from Proof. Those two guys are tech heads, the same as me. I love me technology. I'm a bit of a geek. And then we've got Kurt.
I follow you guys. I'm like the guy, fourth in line, listening to you guys help me out with anything there. I let Mo take over my computer. There's been times where trying to upload things or fix things up. I gotta have him take over my computer, and I sit back and watch what he's doing. I figure it out just by watching what he's doing, and then I can figure it out. No, I'm not a tech guy. I never was a tech guy, but I have learned from a lot of you guys actually out there how to be a wannabe tech guy, but still,
No,
it is what it is.
It scares me the way you are with technology sometimes, to be fair. I get that phone call, Mo, this isn't working. Have you turned it on? Give me a second. Oh, it's working now. Thanks for that. It's hilarious, but I love it. Nevertheless, right, I've had this show's been planned since about Monday of last week, where I've been thinking maybe, when you watch the TV shows and you see what these guys are pulling out and you think, hang on, I wish I could have that. I wish I could run around with the SLS-X cam. I wish I could get my hands on the best of the best in audio recording equipment. And then it sort of dawned on me that, hang on a second, we all started off somewhere, and we all started off with one camera, if we were lucky. The dodgiest torch in the world, the worst voice recorder you could ever get your hands on. And it was enough. It was enough to start with. It worked for me. And granted, with you guys, it possibly worked for you as well. Now, when again, as I said, when I started in this week, the one thing I said was, let's see what guys can pull up. And then today I've been inundated with stuff from Adam, stuff from Ed, and me and Kurt have been shooting ideas left, right, and centre. And I normally I'll get like 2 or 3 points, and I'm like, cool, 2 or 3 points. Both you guys have given me like the SAT test sheets of equipment. I'm like, oh, clear my schedule. I'm not gonna lie, it was a big surprise when I seen the amount of effort you guys have put into it as well. So I'm again really pleased with what you guys have pulled forward. And without much further ado, I'm gonna pick on Ed first. Now with Ed, you sent me a list, right? And your list, you're gonna help me with your list. Now I'm looking at it now, and it makes sense to me. Kurt will get afraid by some of these big words, so we might need to explain it. Or if you've got
I'm excited. It's Man's Valentine's Day, dude. You taught me about that earlier, so we can blame Mo for that.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know what Man's Valentine's Day is, or for anybody who's over 18 years of age, do us a favour, look up March the 14th in Urban Dictionary, and then thank me, and we'll go on from there.
Writing it down right now, Mo.
Oh yeah. Giggity, 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 giggity. Oh my god. Right. Okay, nevertheless, first things first on your list, Ed, was music and trigger objects, which are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, music pretty much can be a trigger object. Trigger objects, you could pick up anything you have at home and use it as a trigger object if it relates to the investigation that you're doing.
Indeed, indeed. The thing with trigger objects and the thing more with music as well is if you take let's put it into a little bit of perspective. If you were to look at something like, for instance, a place that's haunted, and you are not 100% on what's haunting there, could it be intelligent? Could it be residual? Could it be off season 11 of Ghost Adventures and clearly demonic? Who knows? But sorry, I'm not throwing digs left, right, and centre. But if you look at, say, for instance, if something is residual or intelligent, if something there is intelligent, and guys, I could do it to you now. Before, I was playing Wayward Son, and Kurt heard it, and it was like, oh, and I didn't think he'd be into that, and he probably sat there for a second and remembered back in the 1920s when he was a lad, and it might have brought back a memory. You never know.
Well, I was thinking Mo was a little boy bandish, and then I heard that. I was like, all right, it's pretty cool, man. It's just definitely not
It's not all Backstreet Boys on my phone, Like 3 One Direction songs. I'm rolling. No, screw you and your music taste. but nevertheless, what I'm trying to say is every song, if you hear it enough, brings back a memory. So where music being a trigger object, that's a massive thing, because I could sit here now and say I listen to reggae music. I love reggae music. As you can obviously tell by the dreadlocks, I love reggae music. But I could hear some songs and it'll remind me of back in the 90s when I was a kid. I love that. So if you took the right song to the right type of haunting, it could actually trigger something. So I'll give you that one. Next one, night vision, Congo blue and red.
Yep, night vision. A lot of people, depend on night vision always, and I, as an investigator, do as well. Mm-hmm. But people don't have money to go out there and spend money on the goggles or buying special flashlights and so forth. So it's made with the Congo blue film and the red from the lights, the stage lights. You can use that. You can use 3.5 floppy from the computer for us computer nerds who probably still have them hanging around.
Yeah.
And even blank negative film. You take a picture of nothing in a dark room and use that as a film over the lens that will create the ability to let the IR light pass through. Yeah. Block out everything else.
Now, Adam, have you ever tried that?
No, I have not. That's well, I'll get to where some of the stuff I did, but no, I have not tried that.
Cool. I'll tell you about an experience I did with trying that. I got the cheapest, crappiest webcam I could ever get my hands on. took the cap off, took the IR filter out, and put exposed negative. I bought a reel of film, pulled it out, threw it into fresh air, took it into the woman in the local place, and went, "Do me a favour, can you develop that? There's nothing on it, but can you develop it?" And she gave me the confused dog look where they just sort of go. I was like, "Shut up and take my money. Fix the problem I've got, and we'll be friends, okay?" And she done it. I was into it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was horrible to it because don't question me, just let me do it. So I done it, and I put it into the webcam, and I was testing it out in the kitchen because it was the only part of our house which had full light. The light comes right the way through our kitchen. So I had my glass of Pepsi, I had my camera set up, and I'm looking around the kitchen, and it was really dark. And then I looked towards the window, and the light of the window caught it. It looked really cool. And then I realised I was looking through the glass of Pepsi. Well, it turns out Pepsi, when you look at it through a fully converted IR night vision camera, when you've used the negative, it treats Pepsi like water, and you can see straight through it. I was absolutely fascinated by it, but obviously I don't understand myself personally why I'd spent so much time to be able to look through Pepsi. And the camera was useless to me because of the way I'd done it. I pretty much broke it, but yeah, it was just a weird little fact.
The thing is, though, that opened your mind to something. In other words, the neat thing about even if you experiment and it's not really doesn't work out in the paranormal, you open your mind and you actually kind of become an inventor even more so, and that leads to other things. So even though you didn't use it or you didn't like it, it still was a good thing for you, I think.
Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I actually had use for it from there on out. I actually found more use for that camera. It's still in the house at the moment. Now, again, all I've done was remove the filters out of it, changed a few things on it, and it works really good for what I use it for now. And as you say yourself, I'd look towards, I'd say engineer. We'll all sit there, and you'll find most geeks or most real tech heads will sit there and look at something and find an alternative use for it, if anything. For an idea, I tested Ed's app, the AEVPS. I tested it yesterday by setting it onto another mobile phone, set it into airplane mode, and put it in the car, and went out for the day and came back, and it recorded right the way through the day without a hitch. I was over the moon with it, so well played. Cheap plug. And now he's gone. Oh, I've hurt his feelings.
Oh, you hurt his feelings, dude.
No, well, this next one could be for you anyway, Kate, because the next one on his list is compass.
Oh, compass. I'm
go.
a believer in compasses.
Yeah.
I mean, better than even a millimeter.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you got a compass and you go somewhere where there's high EMF, you're gonna get a hit, on a compass than you would like a millimeter. Might not be, set up to the point where you get an accurate read or anything like that. But I'm a firm believer in a compass because it's not, you're not using it as, it's not electronics, so it's not going to fall apart that way. But you buy a decent one, maybe from the Army Navy store, and you got yourself a decent EMF.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. You see, now the one thing, this is me at the moment personally, and I don't know about you guys, but where EMF's concerned for me at the moment, I'm sort of shying away from it because, not because I don't think EMF isn't something we should look into, because obviously it is, but more because I think for certain styles of investigation, maybe you shouldn't take everything that's out there and use it. Maybe, for instance, if I wanted to be able to look into audio phenomenon, or I wanted to look into video phenomenon, the one problem I'd have, or visual phenomenon, the one problem I'd have is if I was running EMF at the same time as that, one will counteract the other. So if you were going to look into EMF, maybe centralize investigating towards EMF. To give you an idea of what I mean, is a video I'm going to be releasing this week of an investigation that we done in an old stately home in Britain, in Liverpool. I've got 5-watt walkie-talkies, and I hit the button on it, and it blacked my camera out for a second until I took my finger off. It was the signal from it was so powerful it blacked the signal out on the screen. And it was when I'd done that I realised that maybe the amount of equipment we take could cause so many false positives that maybe personally I don't believe or shouldn't put don't believe. I really don't put that much effort into EMF. I believe that something it's something massive is there, but I'd rather centralise towards audio and visual personally. So
would you think though, Mo, on the EMF standpoint? I mean, because the big to do out there is that if you got high EMF around your house, I mean, it could cause all sorts of things in your head. It could do that, or do you think that's just kind of blown out of proportion right there.
Can you rephrase that again? Sorry.
I'm sorry about like the EMF fields. Let's say high EMF. Okay?
Yes.
Let's say you go in a basement and you got high EMF down there from wires that are old and this and connected. I mean, do you think that could cause issues, or do you think that can enhance the chance of actual, possibility of picking up, let's say, an EVP or maybe something else, or is that just kind of you're looking at it as a kind of don't like that?
Can I protect myself on this one, right? Ed, can I ask you the same question?
Sure.
Now, as Case just said there, where do you stand on EMF? Do you believe that obviously... Go on, did you get the question?
Yeah, I got the question. I just thought I heard something there. The validation is the most important thing to me, so I won't just go on EMF alone. There has to be something else that does tie in with it. If it doesn't, it's evidence you can just throw it to the side. That's why when Kurt was just saying about the EMF, it triggered in my mind that I like to have things coinciding. When I'm testing EMF, I'm also testing other things at the same time. And if they can match up, then maybe EMF does play a part in it. And the part Kurt said as well about playing on the mental aspect of it, absolutely. I mean, we've had many clients, as Adam can also agree to, I'm sure, that they weren't haunted. They were just sick because of that EMF, and it was causing them to have all sorts of issues and seeing and hearing things and so forth.
Right, cool. Now, Ed, Adam, where do you stand on it, sorry?
I think EMF is kind of the thing we all begin with. We all, when you get into it, you have the K2, and you'll see one of the things I sent you is a K2 and a budget equipment.
Yes, you did.
I think it's a good starting point. I think you can walk into a place, if you start getting EMF and you can't explain it, and what we do is we take it to the next level, which is we demand that we have 1 or 2 beeps. Once for yes, twice for no. And we literally get into an intelligent conversation, and we've found that they will manipulate the device intelligently, and at that point, to me, it's beyond just coincidence. But just when you get standard EMF hits, the first thing I think about is who's got their phone on, did the air conditioner just turn on in the house, things like that, because I immediately discount it unless I can start seeing intelligent rhythm.
Right, got you, cool. I'm going to commit pretty much what we're going to class as Vidcast, Kerry, whatever you call it. EMF, I believe, and this is my opinion, is a byproduct of what we investigate. It is like if you go fishing, there's water. There's always going to be water where fish are. Do you investigate the water, or do you go after the fish? That's the way I've always been with EMF. I do believe that it's a sign, maybe something, you're in the right place. I just believe we need to centralize what we use to look for it, or the techniques we use to look for what's actually there. I think personally we need to hone into whatever that is, because the one thing that I've always struggled with is the entire of this movement, the paranormal movement's been going on for nearly on 200 years, maybe not more. We're not anywhere closer to an answer that we were closer to 200 years ago.
Well,
so we're going the right way.
Yeah, but the EMF part you're talking about, I don't want to hone in too much on the EMF. It is more recent. I mean, you talk about with electricity and that, it's definitely a more recent phenomenon than if you went 150 years ago.
I disagree. Look at anything well, the way I look at it, right, is if you look at anything that Edgar Allan Poe ever writ, or any of the best of the dark writers from the good old days, they would always talk about the hairs standing up on your arms, or the hairs on the back of your neck standing up, and that's you reacting to something.
That's more static, though. The hair is static.
That's ions.
Yeah. Fine. Shut.
I mean, I'm not trying to throw that out there.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm totally down with it.
No, it's cool. I understand. It's just
the show's open now, Adam.
Yeah.
It's done.
For anybody who wants to know what BTWN stands for, it officially stands for Bible Thumping Wingnut, like it was meant to start. But Kate will know what I mean. But basically, what I mean is, where a lot of sensory feelings that you get, a lot of my belief with the EMF is it's a bit of a, we need to look at what causes it as opposed to whether it's there. So but that's my opinion, guys. I know you're brilliant at what you do. So
you're absolutely right, and the way I look at it, and to just elaborate a little bit on yours, Mo, is real hunting, when people go out hunting, say for deer,
Yeah.
you have to find the deer tracks and find out where those deer are.
Yeah.
EMF, I think, is something similar to that. So it gives us an idea of where something is, and maybe something can manipulate it, maybe something can't.
Perfect.
So basically, when you go in on an investigation, Ed, do you do like an EMF kind of sweep like you see on TV, or I mean, is that just kind of like depending on what room you're in, or?
No, we'll do an
like
initial sweep. We'll do an initial sweep, and we'll do photographs before the investigation to see how it compares with after the investigation, or even during the investigation, what the fluctuations may change. We just need to get some kind of baseline to start off.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
Right, now there's the next two that you brought up, Ed, is pen and paper and apps.
Yeah, you know what? Pen and paper is. I will go into that later. You know that. We'll talk about that later.
Oh,
so
yes.
Skip right over that.
The A word. Well, do you want me to move on to the next one for you?
I was just giving some ideas where people might find some really cheap stuff.
I love it. I love some of the stuff. And do you know what, right? I'm going to say the next one you brought is candle. And I like that. I like the idea of that. The only problem with me using a candle is I'm a little arsonist.
Me too.
The place would be up in smoke if I had the chance to play around with it. Now, this one, these next two, or the next three, are probably the most important ones that you'll ever find when it comes to starting up any team, right? The first is a group of marketplaces being eBay, Alibaba, Rebates, Freebates. Also in Britain, we've also got FreeCycle and Gumtree, for instance, and they are probably the best of places to get any of your equipment. And towards the end of the show, I'll show you why. And the next one, for people who don't understand what these are, and this is a shameless plug by me, by the way, SparkFun and Jamico. Now, Jamico make a lot of components. They build a lot of components. I do know about SparkFun, make project boards and a lot of project building equipment. Mammoth, I'm not familiar with.
Mammoth is very similar.
Cool. Which are electronic supplies. Now, in America, you guys have got Best Buy. You've got Radio Shack. And what's the other one? There's another one, isn't there?
There's a lot.
There's a lot of different ones, smaller ones, but
smaller ones.
Right.
Yeah, mostly online though. If you're going to get stuff that, if it like really goes to ghost hunting, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's popular at shows and everything, but it's not like you see that stuff in stores here, at least. So you have to kind of buy stuff online. All the ghost stuff is online, and GhostStop.com is one of our friends that does a ghost company, paranormal company. So that's what I do. Hard to find ghost stuff that's not in a online store, in my opinion.
Of course. Well, in Britain, we've got a few different places. We've got the UK Ghost Store, which is Pigs. A guy called Tim Brown, absolute legend of a guy, a very good friend of the show. And what he tries to do is he tries to centralise all paranormal investigating equipment, and he puts it on sale. Now, where you'd expect it to cost an absolute bomb, it doesn't. I do know that he's actually charging the exact same price for the FLIR 1 as a store local to where I am at the moment. And it's surprising how people can do that sometimes. Another one is I actually work for a company called Matlin Electronics, which is an electronics specialist. It's like an electronics store, massive amount of stores across the country. And as a company, we can get hold of pretty much everything, which for someone like me, dumb logic, I get to play around with a lot of toys. So there are places over here if you wanted to get into project building for that. But realistically, the next two are probably the most important part to utilize what's been mentioned, and they are YouTube and Google. Now, I do know of somebody who's sitting on the screen right now who has videos out, if I'm right in believing.
That wouldn't be me.
No, it's not you. It's somebody who's acting shy and coy, if I'm right in believing, Adam.
You talking about videos of just paranormal captures?
No, didn't you? Am I right in believing I've seen you do other videos?
Yeah, I do production, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to leave you hanging, but I was trying
No, of course. I'm used to it. I work with Kate, remember?
I do video production. I'm looking at doing a show, and that's in the works. We've actually filmed one episode, but we need more footage to do a second episode. But absolutely, YouTube, it's a tool. I mean, I go to YouTube. I go out in the garage, and I'm like looking for something on my lawnmower. I walk in the house and YouTube it, and I know how to take something off. I mean, it's like an absolute tool across the board, And paranormal, in fact, on my channel, on my YouTube channel, when we go over some of the equipment, I have a how-to video of how to take the IR filter out of one of those cheap GoPros. So
yeah. Not that was what I was hinting at, by the way, because I've seen that video before I even knew you were part of Proof I actually saw that video. And I was like looking for a way of ripping that apart. I was like, "There's a video. I'll watch that." Like, yes.
Yeah, I made that video because there's some guy. I was looking on how to do it. I was out researching. I said, "There's got to be a way to do it." I've done it on other cameras.
Oh yeah.
So then I look at this guy, and he's charging like $150 for a $20 camera that he's modified. So that video is kind of my middle fingering that whole thing where you're. I don't mind people making money. That's not it. But when you charge like an insane amount of money, I'm not really down with that. I think we should be treating each other with respect. And I think we should be getting each other, like you said, your buddy. He does good deals.
Yeah. It's important, to be fair, because it's not as if any of us are ever going to earn off what we do. We just run around in the dark with torches trying to work out either one, where we're going, or two, what's following us there. So no, I totally agree with that. Now, I'm glad you made that video, as I said, because for a lot of people out there, if you look in the show notes once this show's done and dusted, if you're watching this on the archive over the next coming weeks, the link to that video is going to be in the show notes. So if you have one of the cameras, then obviously you know what to do. If not, go and buy the camera and then follow the tutorial. It's actually a really good tutorial. Now, again, modifications of cheap supplies, which is what Ed put through. Do you want to go into that a little bit for us, please, Ed?
Yeah, in fact, I was thinking of Adam when I wrote down the modifications. You can take everyday objects and modify them to make them work the way you want them to work for paranormal. Mm-hmm. Everything in the paranormal, all the tools you see out there, they're not built for paranormal exploration. Mm-hmm. They're built, for electrical needs. They're built for plumbers' needs, the certain cameras that are out there, the security needs. And we, as a community, just took them and adapted them into what we do.
Yes.
So one of the other things I mentioned on here a little ways down is you have to be creative and try anything and everything. Because like you said, 200 years we've been out there searching around. We're no closer now than we ever were. But if you try something one day is just going to work.
I'm going to actually do another shameless little plug, and I'm not going to do a tutorial video on this because, unfortunately, due to the running of the show and the run of the channel, I really don't get much time to do stuff like this. But have you ever seen the IR thermometers, the Trigger type IR thermometers?
Oh.
No, Kate. I know you don't like them, and I know I've got a bit of a gripe with them.
Oh. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
It's okay, man. I ripped mine apart a couple of days ago because I just didn't like the fact it was in one piece, and I'm a geek. And there's a grub screw in the back of it. So I tightened the grub screw. I thought it's going to have something to do with the frequency of the screen. It wasn't. It was how quick it reads. And I managed to speed up how fast it'd read the temperature. So as opposed to reading it once every second, it started reading it once every quarter of a second. And I thought, considering I hate those bleeding things, I thought just something so simple as 2 screws and then that 1 screw in the back. And I managed to speed up its refresh rate on how quick it's reading the temperature. I thought, you know what? For what the price of it was £9. And for the capabilities of how quick it was to just modify it slightly to get it to work a lot quicker, to spot spikes a lot quicker, I thought, yeah, I'm happy with that. Not that I'll ever use it. It's good to measure the temperature of my light bulbs. But yeah, that's just my own opinion. Now, nevertheless, Ed, you did say be creative and try everything. Again, you're never going to get anywhere in the paranormal field if you don't just give. If you think of an idea, do it. No matter how foolish it is, do it. Unless it's a naked paranormal show, because apparently that didn't pick up. And just try anything. And another one, I'm going to point out this one. I'm sorry for sounding like I'm just talking like mad. I'm going to give it a break in a second, let you guys go nuts on it. But you did put something there, which is build a cheap first aid kit. And for people out there who believe it's not that important, one of a friend of the show, I don't know if you remember him, Kate, Carl Hassel from Dark Arts Paranormal.
Yeah, I remember Carl Hassel.
Yeah, absolutely legendary guy. He's one of those who will he is what we are. I want to do something, so I'll just do it. And then if he wants to go and investigate somewhere, he'll just go and investigate somewhere. And he's brilliant for it. Now, unfortunately, he was leaving an investigation yesterday and got run over. And he's damaged his leg. Luckily, due to the fact that he had one of 3 things with him. People to take care of him, yeah, warm clothes, and the fact that he had a first aid kit. Tell me that's not needed now. He was in the middle of nowhere. He's all right. He's on his legs now. He's on crutches. Probably a little bit worse for wear, but nevertheless, he's okay. So if you don't believe you need a first aid kit when you're running around in a dark building, which has probably got bits of wood sticking out everywhere,
get nails, wood, everything, you know.
Dude, I'm gonna pen a term now. This is a new term for you: lemming paranormal or dodo paranormal, because that's what you should call yourself if you ever go into it. You are taking natural selection into your own hands, and it's gonna take you out. Final Destination style. You're probably gonna blow up when you touch a cable if you've got no first aid kit with you. It's hugely important.
Adam, we could do a first aid video. We could do an example first aid video so people understand the hazards. With the one with you falling over the bureau there, or whatever on the floor, Chris inside. You know what I'm talking about.
So you fell over the bureau. Oh, please.
We like to go in the dark. I mean, we like to use the flashlight as little possible. I think it heightens your inner animal or something. I think you just investigate better if you're into that kind of higher level of being. So anyway, it's pitch dark and we're walking around, and there's a bookcase knocked over, probably about 3 feet high, and it's on the floor. I didn't even see it, man. I just wrecked hard, and scratching tearing a big chunk out of my leg and other fun stuff. So yeah, that's actually, we have a video of that, and we caught it on video, so it's good. It's good for morale.
We had a team member over this side, a gentleman called Brad Island, legend of a guy. He's 7 foot tall. Okay. We're in a cellar system with a 7 foot tall, skin-headed lad, right? Big skin-headed dude. And then I'm walking through, and all you hear is this little footprints, and we're going quiet, and then I just heard ding, and I turned around, and he's like that. He'd walked into a pipe. I was so proud of him. But it was like, it was literally like,
Brad is huge.
Because he had no hair, because he's got a skinhead.
Yeah,
if you have hair, that'll soften the ding. It actually just literally sounded like someone got a bell, got a hammer, went ding.
Did you have your cameras running? That's the most important thing.
Hell yeah. I was so proud of him, right? And I was so thoughtful for his well-being that I turned around and then laughed a lot and then kept going.
Was that for you? Were you laughing at him for laughing at you falling in the grave?
Yep.
Okay, just curious. Just wanted to know if that was it.
Not more, not less. Oh my God. Right, so anyway, apps.
We talk about this all the time, so I'm not here to talk about apps.
No. You've already mentioned it in your list, so I'm going to be very quick. Apps, right. You need to be very selective of what apps you do go for. Not just because Ed Bogrowski's released a load of amazing apps. I'm not going to mention that. What I am going to say is, because he's sick of talking about it so far, that go and have a look at Paratools. That's it. We're done and dusted on that. I'm going to move on.
What I was going to say, just real quickly before you do move on, nothing to do with me.
Of course.
Is apps that are out there not targeted for ghost hunting. There are some great sensor tools apps out there that are marketed in the tools section of apps.
Yes.
With temperature sensors, light sensors, geo sensors, a ton of them out there for free. It doesn't cost anything. Use them. If you have nothing else, use them.
Levels
I was going to just say that.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone into where I work at, in one of the rooms, you get the fun house effect, and this is a house built in 1815, and I'm giving tours. I'm like, do you feel that? And I say that to the people in there. They're like, feel what? I go, do you feel like you're kind of leaning in one direction, like a funhouse effect? And they're like, yeah, I do. And I was like, just all we could do is take one of these, download it, put it down there, and see, where it stands.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes total sense. Now, I'm going to point out again, this is only a quick tap onto mobile phone usage in the paranormal field. Bear in mind that your phone does emit absolutely all kinds of different types of levels of EMF, ESR. It emits so much radiation that maybe if you were going to use your mobile phone, if you put it into airplane mode, it minimizes all that, totally eradicates it all. So that's probably the best thing you can do. Second thing to point out here as well, if you are going to use your phone, and bear in mind it's got a camera, don't be looking for orbs. If you are, then maybe you're going to get a lot of ridicule. You're going to get it from every single angle, because when you start in the paranormal field, the first thing you look for is any type of paranormal evidence you can possibly find. And within the first few weeks, I can pretty much guarantee that everybody who gets into the paranormal finds a really good piece of evidence. But then a year, maybe 2 years down the line, they'll look at it and think maybe that wasn't the best piece of evidence I could have found. But obviously, I was looking for something and I found something, which you do get a lot, especially on our group on Facebook. We get a lot of people who do post evidence through. And sometimes I won't comment on it because I don't want to be the person to say to them, listen, I caused trouble.
I feel guilty sometimes when I see it. I'm like, pareidolia, all the way to, with matrixing, pareidolia. Yeah. I mean, whether it's audio, whether it's visual, and I don't want to be the guy to say bullshit, because I'm not that kind of person that would do that. Well, I am, but I just wouldn't do that for people.
It's okay. I ripped a piece of evidence that my team caught together. I ripped a piece of evidence from August. This is how bad it is for me. A piece of evidence from August last year, which I've only just managed to get edited into something for the YouTube channel. I've only just finished editing it on Thursday. And I found a piece of evidence where one of our team members was sitting on the floor and you just see a shadow dart past. And I was like, what's that? So then I scrutinised it, look at the floor plan of where we were and realised it was something going past the door. So I checked the camera, which was on the other side, and I synced up the video so you could see both sides of the camera. And it was one of our team members going to grab us a cup of coffee. And I'm the first person to say, that looked, if it was too good to be true evidence, that would have been brilliant. But I won't do it. Happily just said, that can get scrapped. So that piece of evidence got absolutely scrapped.
But you have to scrap it if you feel it needs to be scrapped, as good as it looks. Yeah. And as much as you say, hey, we catch a shadow figure. You gotta be like, hold on a second. Let's look at it from many different angles to see what it could be. I mean, to be a solid group, you gotta scrap it where you gotta scrap it.
Yeah. Can I just state two other things, and then we're going to rip into Adam's amazingness next. So what I'm going to say, right, is, and by the way, guys, please disagree with me. I'm happy if you want to disagree with me. Kate, you probably will because you disagree with everything I ever say.
No, I don't. Only some things.
I know. Just 90%.
Just enough to get under your skin. That's all.
I'd rather honestly fail than dishonestly win. That's the easiest way you can look at the paranormal. I would rather honestly get nothing than dishonestly get myself to somewhere where people go, wow, he's caught something. And then I'll sit there and think, do you know what, right, I've just wasted so much research, so much time, so much effort, so much equipment to have to lie. Why?
I agree with you, though, Mo, on this. I can't argue this one bit. And I think where we see a lot of that going on, where people are just doing this, and I'm sad to say this, is that social media cancer called Facebook. And I'm saying that in a serious manner. That a lot of people will post this stuff, and then next thing you know, you're in like a 50 different thread argument why it's not, and there's no winning. It's not even worth looking at,
Of course. No, I totally agree. It sounds horrible, but I sadly agree. It's that. Sorry.
I was going to say, to take it a step further, and you're absolutely right, groups will do this too, just to build their quote-unquote notoriety, where, they can get speaking engagements, so they can, gather people that will pay to go on tours with them and so forth. We know groups that actually will fake evidence to do that, and that's disgusting.
Of course.
And we've talked to some people in the past, Ed, that actually fits in well. We've talked to people that have said, I did not look to get into the paranormal field. The paranormal field found me. And I'm going to use KJ McCormick as an example. He goes, I never wanted to become on Ghost Hunters. I just never wanted to do it. He goes, but I ended up doing it, covering for Jason, who is a buddy of mine, but that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear that, because you got all these other people out there that are scratching at any producer's door to get them on air, and it drives me up a wall.
No, I'll give you that. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, a show started up a few weeks ago, and on the show, somebody said that on an investigation, right? Just listen to the logic behind this, guys. Something threw a battery at him.
Hopefully hit him in the head.
No, the one thing that a paranormal investigator always has on him got thrown at him, but it obviously wasn't a paranormal investigator. It must have been a ghost. Must have been something in the distance, in the darkness. Because something from the 1700s obviously found a Duracell AA and decided...
I was going to say a D battery, but, I was hoping he got hit with the D battery. But...
Yeah, let's hope it's a car battery. But, when you just hear something and you think, really, have you just broadcast that? That's scary. But again, that's my opinion. Now, the last ones that you brought up was the RAW, I call it, but it's raw dive microphone, EMP boxes, Frank's box, IR illuminator, and static detector, which are all pieces of equipment, which, as you said, were all retrofitted and switched around to make them work. Just to show people something, because I'm a bit of an arse for stuff like that. That light, looking cheap and crap as it is, right? I built about a year ago. It cost me just on £6 to build and took me 40 minutes. It's ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet.
It's hilarious because it'll help me find any dodgy stains anywhere, or
when you go to the motels at night, yeah.
Any cocaine. But for the sake of how long that took me to build, when people are charging £40 or £50 in Britain for something with less amount of LED illuminators, I literally sat down with a piece of paper, a pen, wrote down what I wanted to do, drew it, drilled the holes, threw the LEDs in, made them work with a soldering iron. It's not hard. Give it a go. What's the worst you're going to do? Make it not work.
And that's one of the reasons why I brought up YouTube, too, is because everything that I mentioned there, there are directions either on YouTube or Google how to build all of those items.
Of course. It's brilliant. It's YouTube is... I would never have modified all my cameras if it wasn't for YouTube. If it wasn't for the fact that I went on there to find that one cloak and dagger piece of information, which was when you remove a filter off your camera, replace it with an equal size piece of glass or translucent material. If I didn't know that, none of my cameras would focus now.
Well, you got guys out there like Mike St. Clair that are just shredding it, which I think purposely I'd like to go to his site just to see like the flashlight getting blown away. The flashlight trick or something else that it's interesting to me when you can get somebody solid out there that will actually take their time and go through it and say, listen, this is BS or this could work. Either way, give it a shot,
I know it makes total sense, and I'm glad people like that, and I'm glad, Adam, I'm really glad you've done what you do. Ed, you'll never ever get sick of hearing me say how glad I am at what you do.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, and one thing of note that you mentioned just made my brain tingle a little bit was you had mentioned, like when you do the GoPro, you don't have to replace the glass like you do on a Sony and others. That's the nice.
Because you don't need to pull focus, it's manual. You can pull the focus in yourself, can't you?
Pull the focus with it when you screw the lens in, it focuses back and forth.
Perfect. You see, when I done my cameras, the one thing I had, which was a massive issue for me at the time I was doing it, was if I didn't replace the glass, it would have been game over for me. And just so people know what the hell I'm talking about, to give them an idea of the size of the glass, it is, when it shows, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up in a second, and I'll show you in a second the size of the glass because it's tiny. I literally put it on top of a penny to show people how big it was, and it sits a quarter the size of a penny. It's absolutely hilarious how bleeding small it is. But nevertheless, where are we? Adam. This is the part where I confuse myself, so if you hear me talking away to myself for the next 5 seconds, then I would apologise. Tell me when it comes up on your screen, guys.
I got it. There it is. That's a micro. You got it. You don't have a piece
you got it up there, dude.
Okay, no, I'm not looking for the piece of glass. This is for you now, Adam.
Oh, okay.
So, first and most important, go rip it a bits.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's investigated for any amount of time realizes that the visual stuff is fairly rare. I mean, the most you get on any kind of, I should say, if you could say what's the most common visual that you have, unless you're crazy and you see stuff all the time, is shadows moving in darkness. That's about as good as it gets, except for that one holy grail of something that happens about every 5 years. So with that said about video, your likelihood of catching stuff on video is pretty limited. It's pretty low. Now on the flip side of that, audio is not. In fact, audio, you go to anywhere that's haunted, known to be haunted, you're going to get some EVPs out of there. I mean, just at least that's my opinion. We pull EVPs about everywhere we go, and they're quality EVPs. They're not just like someone you breathe in or something. So that's why I think that, you know, when it comes to a guy starting out and getting into investigating, the cheap recorder, the one on the screen, the Sony here, $50. The nice thing about it, it's got a decent speaker in
That's
it.
That's a nice one. Yeah, that's a nice one. What's your take on Tascams?
I think Tascam's a great brand. I have Zoom, actually. There's one there. Yeah. I think that recorder that we're looking at is under $100, and the thing has remarkable sound capture. Much like this Zoom I have here, which I paid $200 and something, but I really don't even need it all. You know, in other words, if I would have bought the Tascam for $100 for half the cost, I would have caught just as many EVPs. And likely, if I bought the $50 Sony, I'd also catch just as many EVPs.
Yeah.
The danger I find with this Tascam that's on the screen and any of the cameras like this, they are so sensitive that we'd be upstairs in a jail. And sorry, my machine, I got to turn that off.
It's okay.
It's so sensitive that you can literally hear it through a floor.
Yeah.
When you're investigating and you're going through your evidence and you have good headphones and you can hear every little thing that's happening, there's a higher percentage of getting a false positive with one of these microphones than just the standard little cheap ones.
See, the one thing that I did notice is I do a lot of the voiceover work for some of the videos that I do produce for the channel and for obviously other things that I do. And I use a Zoom. I use a H2N, I think it is, and I've got a Q3. Now, whenever I use any of my Zooms, I have to be in a different room to my computer because it can hear the fan off my computer.
Yep.
And I didn't realize how bad my breathing sounded until I monitored the audio coming out of my Zoom. Because when you hear how raspy your own breathing is, you realize how sensitive this thing is. It's scary how sensitive it is. The one thing with the Tascam, which what you just brought up there, the sad part with the Tascam is sometimes it's a little bit too clear. It's a little bit too good the quality, which is weird when you're trying to pull EVP, but when you're messing around with the microphone, which is might as well be bleeding flawless. Sometimes it'll pull up noises in the distance. I've caught some stuff with my Zoom, but I've never been able to hear it as good a quality for some reason as my Olympus recorder. But then the naysayers of the planet might come along and say, well, that's because obviously audio contamination on the Olympus recorder. Well, maybe the Olympus recorder was built, or maybe standard voice recorders were built in what we could call a sweet spot, where there was something about them which is like just right to be able to pick up audio. I would never know, and I'm speculating to believe. So I'll move away from that, and the next one I'll go to is one of your friends there, Adam.
Yeah, that one right there. That's actually, I pulled that picture off of Amazon. The camera's $26 right now delivered for folks in the States. I don't know how that is. That works for you guys in Britain.
Probably about £900 to get it over here.
Yeah, probably. But for us folks in the States, and I'm sure you guys have the same kind of outlet in Britain. It's just maybe not Amazon's the way to go. That's $26 shipped, and really, all you have to do to that camera right there is take the lens out and knock the IR filter out, and you have a full spectrum camera for under $30. Naturally, you got to buy a card for it, a memory card, and those are dirt cheap now. So, literally, when it comes to the budget investigating camera, it's really, really hard to beat these. The only downside to these cameras, first and foremost, is the audio is not very good. You're going to have a recorder. And secondly, they don't have they don't last a long time on a single battery. They last about an hour. So you have to have more than one battery if you're going to do it full night.
That's fair enough. The one thing I'll tell everybody else as well is if you look at the bottom and you look very closely at the mount that it's sitting on, the spacing between those two pieces of clear plastic is the same spacing that's on the bottom of any standard GoPro camera. So if you already have a GoPro and you've got a load of mounts like helmet mounts or the stick mount, it will fit that camera. So that's where I stand. And then one of the weirder pieces of equipment which runs across. No, and do you know what? The only reason I'm saying weird is because on the K2 meter, the only thing I've ever noticed which really, really frustrated me was why it's only got a momentary button on it. I've never understood that.
That doesn't, though. That one has a switch button, I think. The black one.
Yeah, that looks a switch. That's a switch.
Yeah, they had a momentary. That was the first one because people actually used it to measure EMF for real. You know, like you're looking for radiation. and that's why that momentary switch. But once it kind of became popular, the gray ones now have a on and off switch, and I don't think they make a black one that doesn't have the on and off. But I know exactly what you're talking about because the old schoolers would put pennies in them to keep them on. Yeah.
Do you know what? When I've seen that, I've seen people jamming pennies into them. I'm just thinking to myself, do me a favor, rip it apart, and put a switch on it. Do it, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't stand that either. That would be something. Even if I just opened it up and crossed the wires, and whenever I had a battery in it, it was on, or something. Whatever. That's the simplest way. But I included a K2 because it gets a lot of people make fun of the K2 because everyone has one. But again, it's a $50 piece of equipment that's a relatively accurate EMF detection device. I personally like the Tri-Field. I use a Tri-Field. I think that's the best you can buy. But that's $200, So for somebody who's just starting out, I think this is a great piece of equipment, and they're going to get false readings. Cell phones are going to set it off, air conditioners, but that's part of the learning curve. As long as they don't sell that evidence as something that it's not, it's all right. It's cool.
Another piece of EMF gold for people who want to look out for it. Have a look on microwave detectors as well. It's a very, very cheap way of doing it. There's a microwave detector, which is a way to test for bleed on a microwave. It would work along the same basis, but it would be less accurate, but it would work. And it's analog and they're really, really cheap as well. So let's go for the. Sorry.
With that, what you just said, they also make it's basically a bug detector. Like if somebody was bugging your house, same thing. You can buy one of those for really cheap, and they get a whole spectrum of RF and everything, like routers. That'll catch all that stuff.
They go up to some of them go up to like 5.8 gigahertz, don't they? They go up really high from really low, and it just catches everything. They're amazing.
Right.
Again, retrofitted technology, which works perfectly. Another recorder.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, you guys probably know this. It's like the legendary recorder. I have one.
Yeah.
It's loud. It's cool. The only thing that's wrong with it is that it doesn't have USB. It's pre-USB. Therefore, when if you try and get some evidence off of it, you're going to have to stick an audio jack in there and record it digitally into your computer. You can't just copy the file.
Yeah.
But this recorder is really like, it's like the gem of the recorders that they say, and I say they, air quotes, the folks that are most popular in the field. And what's nice about it is that when you record, you can play it back. It's very loud, very clear. It's absolutely perfect for if you're doing automatic reviews, if you're doing EMF sessions and EVP sessions, and you want to review right after you talk, that's the perfect recorder. Again, it's got drawbacks, and that the main one being there's no USB. Also, the other drawback, it's not manufactured anymore, so it's kind of pricey for what it is because it's kind of the cool tool. It's popular now.
It's the one they've caught on to.
It's like a new one of those is $120 if somebody hasn't ever opened it or used it, and that's like ridiculous. It's not near worth that, but because it's like popular with the ghost hunters, it's driven the price up.
Exactly. Now, another thing to look at as well is if you do use a Sony recorder like this and you have to get the audio back onto the PC, a free piece of software to get audio back over is Audacity. You can record direct onto Audacity with it and just like leave it, go and grab a cup of coffee, watch some NCIS or I don't know, whatever you watch, like I don't know, Dynasty, and then come back and it should be all over and done with. You should be able to get all your audio back over, and then you can mess around with it very lightly, of course, in Audacity. Nevertheless, another one of the cameras, is this the same as the other one, or?
Yeah, this is just the HD version of that one, and the only reason I included it is that it cost about $40. It's about a little less than or double the other 720.
Yeah.
And if you want full HD, then this is the one to get for 40 something. But the other camera is $26. It's 720. So that's the only difference. The procedure is exactly the same to make them IR.
Brilliant. My next, I think around the 25th of this month, I'm going to buy one and do it. I'm going to buy one and rip it apart and do it because.
So easy.
Because I haven't done one of them. So.
Because you can.
Do you know what I'll do? I'll do a video of me watching your video, doing the camera from the video that I want to do.
Make sure you have a mirror. Make sure you have a mirror in back so it goes forever.
Oh yeah.
That would be funny, dude.
Yeah.
That would be epic.
Now see, this camera that you've brought up on the screen, I assume this is your camera that you've got, right? This has to be one of the.
This is what this camera is. I have cameras like this.
Yeah.
The reason I put this camera out here is you do a search on eBay for Sony Night Shot, you're going to get a lot of hits. This camera here, I just found it today, $90. It's got a 40 gigabyte hard drive. It's got a Lux Zero total night shot. So you can have this camera for under $100. It's a Sony, so it's going to run probably forever. You don't have to worry about tapes or anything, and it'll do a great ghost hunting camera for $90. So that's the reason I included it. There's a lot of gems like that out on eBay. You just got to know what you're looking for. I suggest don't go any high 8 route. Get rid of the tape. Get a hard drive camera. But again, this is just an example, $90.
No, that's brilliant. The one thing I'll point out with that camera as well is there's 2 versions of Night Shot that Sony have done. There's Night Shot and Night Shot Plus. Night Shot Plus, it kicks into Night Shot, but it also tries to put light into the back of the image. Now with Night Shot Plus, you do get a lot of motion blur. That's if you're running around panicky and screamy, that's what you expect. If the camera's on a tripod and looking into the distance to try and find something, it's perfect because it's like an enhanced version of Night Shot. It's amazing. Yeah,
Night Shot, I got mine off on eBay too. It's you could either use the disc or you could use the stick. Yeah, and I like to use a stick with, let's say, a phantom light right next to it on a bar. And just to really, bring it out. But man, to find one of those is a score, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And really, they're pretty common. I mean, if you do a Sony Night Shot search on eBay, a blank search, there's going to be a ton of them. I did one right before the show to get this picture and just kind of know what I'm talking about. No. But yeah, I think for the guy who's just starting out, this is the best thing you can buy when it comes to a camera, because you can buy. I have a $1,500 Canon that's got all the best bells and whistles. It's fantastic, but I kind of worry about dropping it, and things like that. This is a $9 camera. You go and you play hard, you investigate. It has great quality, and it does what it's supposed to.
Takes the wax. That's absolutely amazing. I love the way Sony do that. Sadly, Sony for a very long period of time stopped doing Night Shot. But a little hint for the people out there: if you can afford it and you want to get a new one, Sony have just started doing it again, which is kind of another little bit of a geekery, which I'm kind of.
Yeah, they did stop that, and that's when everybody like myself and Adam and everybody else jumped on eBay and was just bidding like crazy to get that Night Shot camera.
Because I think Sony's had Night Shot for a little while, but the problem is it's all high-end stuff. It's like $2,500 cameras, and that's where you start getting Night Shot again. So the actual consumer camera for guys like us who aren't millionaires, it was not available. And the reason they did that is because people were able to use it in X-ray mode, and people were going.
You could see through black, couldn't you?
Yep, that's why they got rid of it.
That's all we need, is something being able to do that. Now, one thing I will point out, especially with regards to the Night Shot cameras as well, you can actually modify pretty much any camera to be able to do so. It's just a case of removing a filter. Now, I'll give you an idea of what I'm going on about here, just so you don't think I'm an absolute lunatic as usual. Where are we? Open where? Right. I'm going to screen share my screen now so people can see what I'm talking about, so I'm not a nutball. This is what I done when I first started off. Can you see that on the screen? Right. That was one of the cameras that I started off with. That one is a Sony, if I'm right in believing. Let me just double check if that's the Sony. Yeah, that's the Sony. That camera there, when I first bought that, cost me £27, and it wasn't night vision. It was the first mistake I ever made. It was not night vision, and I was absolutely fuming. So I got on the internet and tried to find a disassembly video of it. Now, a disassembly video for that didn't exist. So I ripped it apart. And the little trick to me ripping it apart was I just made sure that I got a piece of paper and I wrote down in an order, like number 1, these screws, number 2, these screws, number 3, and then I reversed it when it came to putting it back together. And I ripped the filter out of it in probably about 40 minutes, which was quite a pretty straightforward thing. The light I built, the tripod cost me £5. They're 2 of the lights that I built. I don't know where they are now, to be fair. I think I might have left them on an investigation, but again, 40 minutes across the 2 to build the 2. That's what I started off with as the cheapest of setups, and it was kind of crap, to be fair, when I started off. Even down to the charger was terrible. That again, other than the creepy doll in the background, was a camera I've had for about 15 years, and that's a Panasonic. That's got night vision built into it. The night vision was terrible. The microphone was terrible. I decided to skip away from it, and that's the next one I got was the JVC Averio. That one was again £30. And then Connect, for people who don't want to get involved in this Connect, he said, she said stuff, then don't worry about it. If you do want to do it, it's really easy. If you've already got the Xbox 360 version, it's a case of cutting the connection off, rewiring the USB in the right order, and pulling a DC jack off the side. And
the Xbox sell a kit for that for $10 now. You can, for that Connect, the old first gen one. Yeah, because I have one of those and I have the second gen. And the first gen one, it's like $10 or $15, and it's that plugs into it. That plugs into the wall, and then you have a USB. So really, $15, and if you could score one of these from your kids, you have a Connect system. Well, that and download the software. But
yeah, it's amazing. The only reason I done it the way I done it is because I wanted to run it off battery, so I could take it somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and it worked. It worked for a very long time. I've actually got 2 of them in a bag upstairs with a laptop ready to use, but they don't get out as much. I never really put them anywhere. Unfortunately, they just sort of sit there waiting to be used. Just for yeah, that was the start of it. Of me ripping the camera apart to be able to start getting
your glass examples in the right side there.
Yeah, and then there you go, on the side of a penny. There's the polarizing filter on the side of a penny. That thing there is what stops all infrared getting through to your camera. Get it out the way and your camera's rolling, plain and simple. And then obviously the other cameras are started with. So I'll back out to there, and I'm back on screen now. So yeah, to be fair, I was when I was first messing around with them, it was quite hard to actually sit there and try and work out what I wanted to do. And then I put it down on a piece of paper. What do we need? Camera, audio, pen and paper, which I already had, places to go and look at. Go, plain and simple. But
yeah, I destroyed my first camera that I did, and that was just like you. I took it apart. I didn't know what I was doing, and I took the lens out and blew the focus away. So that was where I kind of dug in and figured out what I needed to do. And from there forward, it just, every camera I touched, I could do it, including these GoPros, you know?
Yeah, those GoPros are absolutely phenomenal. If you had the amount of money, say for instance, if somebody gave me, or if I managed to come across a couple £100 tomorrow, I'd buy a pile of them. I'd modify a pile of them. I'd be happy. I managed to get my hands on one of the Wi-Fi versions of one of them a couple of months ago, and I wasn't very impressed with the Wi-Fi one due to the battery. But the first thing that came into my mind was drill the shell, throw a cable into it, put a big battery on the back of it.
Well, you're talking about the GoPro, right?
No, the one I had was I can't remember what company it was.
Because you can always buy extended batteries. They got the I always usually buy extended batteries on mine.
Yeah. There's a cable you can get that fits inside the shell of a lot of these cameras, and it hangs out the side, and it's just a USB port on it, and you can plug cable to it, which is again, I'd love to do, but it's getting obviously the time for me to do it. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly bring something up that I did a little bit earlier. I decided, and I did say on Facebook, I did say that what I was going to do is try and talk you guys, or not you guys, but try and talk through how cheap you could probably start off an entire investigating kit, which is going to be a camera, an infrared light, camera mount, so you could mount the infrared light to the mount, a voice recorder, and how much it costs you to just set yourself up with those 4 items, right? And this is no joke, by the way. I'll put the links in the show notes for this. Right, to start off, the Olympus DM450 voice recorder, £8.50. Right, there's a reason for the prices of these. The JVC Averio GZM G334, which is one of the cameras that just came up on the screen before, what I showed, £16. The light to go alongside it, £4.38, and the arm to mount the light to the camera, £3.52. So that's £3.54. So that's £7. You're talking about £40 just to do that. If you wanted to be an absolute smart ass, okay, an Acer Iconia tablet, which is a Windows tablet, 32 gig, £54.99. Yeah. A Microsoft Kinect camera, £21.49. So there's what, 55 plus 22, that's £77. and you've got a Connect camera, like a Connect system. It's scary how cheap this stuff is. It fascinates me how you can actually get stuff so cheap. Now the camera that I was looking at, which was the JVC Averio, went for £16. That sold for £16. And a little secret for people who do not use eBay, what I'd suggest you to look at is look at what ends on a Sunday morning or a Monday morning. Because as cruel and as horrible as it sounds, you'll find a lot of people out there who'll sit there on a Saturday night or a Sunday night and go, "Oh crap, I haven't got money. I'll sell something on eBay." And then what's the one problem on a Monday morning? Everyone's in work. What's the one problem on a Sunday morning? Everyone's in bed.
Paid.
No, everyone's in bed. So no one's really bothered about shopping on eBay. So it's like the sweet spot is to try and catch on a Sunday morning or a Monday morning to buy stuff cheap. But again, that's my opinion. And again, back to what you said, Adam, you can actually, and Ed, you said the same, it's actually really easy to get some really scary good bargains on the market to get yourself started up. Just to, again, another one for you, £129, right, for the NVR system, which is a CCTV running through network cables with 8 cameras. Doesn't come with a hard drive. So £129 hard drive, say £80 just because we can. You're talking £210 and you've got 8 cameras, a full CCTV system with cables, with power supplies, with everything. And it's network, it's 1080p cameras. That's amazing. But obviously, if it had the word Ghost in front of it or Ghost Hunter, mate would know about it. Unfortunately, would know about it. But
yeah, it seems like the trend for a lot of folks is buying the cheap cameras that are easily modifiable. Like you go to what's that site, Ed, the Chinese site?
Of course you're going to pick on it.
It's an inside joke. We always call Ed China buying stuff because he's always buying this stuff. But you know
China
yeah, like there's a really cheap Chinese wish.com.
Love it.
Oh, I've never used that one.
There's Wish and Geek.
Yeah, it's super.
No, a Wish sucks. I mean, you might as well wait like 3 months to get whatever you order for like $5.
You player hater.
There is that. My point with that is, like, if you find a cheap Chinese source, you can buy an HD camera on Wish, 1080p for like $50. And if you buy that camera and you take it home and you can figure out you can modify it very easily, what I see people doing is buying those exact cameras, fixing them, and then reselling them for $150. Again, I don't mind people making money, but when the camera's only $50 and then you're charging $100 to just do a simple lens, it's kind of
frustrating.
Yeah.
It's massively frustrating.
Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of the trend right now. Is there's certain cameras that are more easily done than others. I have some that are not very easily done. And there's no way I would try to make money off of doing that. Because it's so much labor. But some are super easy. Like this GoPro is super easy. It could not be any easier. It really is the easiest thing ever.
Well, we've got again another couple of show friends called Calamityville Horror, and they upgraded their cameras from they were using 8mm and they upgraded to JVC cameras, and they pay the company to buy and supply the camera. And again, for people out there, the JVC Averio, £20 I spotted it on eBay. That's the cheapest I found. That on average they were £30 and £40 for like average in the middle of the day sales. Early morning, you're always going to get something really cheap if you decide you want to look for it. They paid £70 for their camera. And for anybody out there who's thinking, why should I pay £70 for a camera when I can buy it for £16 off eBay? Well, when you buy it for £16 off eBay, it's not exactly, how can I put it? It's not night vision, and it's you never know what you're going to get. If you want to buy it, it's a risk you're going to have to take. Now, one camera I did point out, which is got 21 hours left on sale, is a Sony camcorder. You know the one that you saw, the one that you just showed up, Adam?
Yep.
Right, just verify this for me if that's okay. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. There we go. Yeah.
There we go. Is that it's the same camera?
It's almost, yeah. I mean, if it's very close. It's a 40 zoom. It looks just like the same camera.
Yeah, Night Shot Plus on it. £4.20. It's got 21 hours left.
That's a 30 gig. The other one's a 40 gig, but other than that, they're really close.
I was very surprised when I seen that, how cheap that actually was going for. I was really I was thrown back by it, to be fair, because you look at some of the prices of some of these cameras on the market, you kind of, it's, as you say yourself, it goes really expensive really, really quick. So,
yeah, and you know, the camera, a lot of the things with camera, we talked about the cheap GoPro.
Yeah.
It's a very cheap way to go, but if you're using it as a camera to like shoot quality video, it's just not sufficient. Whereas even a cheap Sony, the quality, even though maybe it's not even 1080p, it may not even be high def, but the quality of the video is just so much better. And when I say Sony, I mean JVC, Panasonic, I mean the big players. It's so much more than these cheap cameras that are sold to ghost hunters. I bought a Bell & Howell, the worst camera I've ever had. I sent it back the next day. I was so I almost vomited. It was so bad. I mean, and I paid $150, I think, for it, and I could have bought the Sony, and that's kind of where I had my revelation. I'm like, you know what? I could have bought a good, nice Sony for the same price or less, and that's what I did. So anyway, there's a lot of cheap crap out there.
And just to be able to give you an idea on the market now of an exact opposite of what you've just been talking there, Adam, have you seen the new show which Nick Groff's got, which is Paranormal Lockdown?
No, I had seen his last show, which was what was the name of that? His last show was really good. It was Ghost Stalkers.
Ghost Stalkers, yeah. I actually liked that. I was surprised by that. It was actually a good show.
Paranormal show in a long time, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, on this new show, this Paranormal Lockdown, one of the things he's got on there is he's got him, Katrina Weidman from Paranormal State, and he actually takes a cameraman around for the daytime. And the cameraman that he's got is using a special type of camera. The camera's called the Red Epic. Okay, and for people, and you might know because I know you do a lot of filming, do you know what the Red Epic is?
No, I don't.
Yeah, £23,000 second hand without a lens.
Just a super high-end camera.
It's 5K.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 5K. Here's things for you to look at. The batteries are £130 each. The memory cards are £500 there or thereabout. Well, I think it's £300 to £500. It's 23 grand second hand. Okay. The lens that he's got is a special lens which has got a massive field of view to bring in as much light as possible. So it's technically not running night vision, it's running as close to night vision as possible. Okay, so they're in that camera probably about 30 grand, including mounts and the shoulder rig, so that he can pull in decent night vision. I haven't got that money. I'll never have that money. And I don't think.
But it goes to show you, if you do have the money, there's a big difference in that camera and a $2,000 camera. You know, there's an incredible difference. It's just that it exponentially gets more and more expensive the higher quality you get, you know?
Yeah. The one thing I will say to people, and this is hugely important, is do not ever be put off by the pieces of equipment that are on the market that you have no range to buy. If you only have a cheap camera that your grandparents bought you for a Christmas present 2 years ago, then good. It takes shots. It films. Use it. I've got this absolute fascination with something called indie filmmaking, and basically what it is people who go out themselves and do it themselves. And there's one YouTube channel with a guy called Ryan Connolly who he's called Film Riot, and he'll talk you through the best way to do cheap and cheerful videos, or at least how to DIY video make. And I watched 2 of his videos today to show one of the lads I work with how easy it is to film on your mobile phone. And he was like, it's a mobile phone, it won't do it. There's actually film festivals or film awards for people who film and produce on mobile phones. And again, this is what I'm going to be closing the show with, if it's okay with you guys, but people, again, we stigmatize mobile devices. I did up to about a year ago. I would heavily stigmatize taking a mobile phone with you on an investigation. Bear in mind, you've got, and Kate's on my side with this, a Note 4. Kate's got one. It's a 16 megapixel camera. Okay, you can buy a camera mount. I've got one which locks around the phone, and on the bottom of it's got a tripod thread or a 3/8 thread. You can lock it onto a tripod mount. That's capable of recording in 4K in decent light conditions. Low light is not very good, but if I ever had to go somewhere and do any location filming before I went anywhere, considering I trust this to record the memories of my children running around with them being kids, I trusted to do something like that, and I've heavily trusted to put video on YouTube. And some of the software out there at the moment to put onto your mobile phone to do video recording, because the one thing we all do is rely on the stock app, the app that comes with your phone, just the normal camera app. I downloaded a piece of software called Filmic Pro, spelled Filmic Pro. That has to be the best video app I've ever seen in my life, or best filming app I've ever seen in my life. There's also a cable you can get, a very simple cable, which it's your smartphone headphone adapter on the top is a special adapter. It also takes a microphone as well as the headphones. you can buy a splitter cable so you can split the microphone off your headphones. So you can plug a microphone into your phone. So if you wanted to be really smart about it and you owned a Zoom recorder and wanted to record an interview, you could plug a microphone into your phone, have the phone recording the video, and have a proper professional microphone in the center of the table and do an interview. That's scary. The capabilities of that's amazing. So, in my honest opinion, I shouldn't stigmatize mobile phones, especially with the capabilities of them at the moment. It's scary. Yeah, go on, Ed.
Yeah. Actually, you know, I was going to ask, and I'm going to put Adam on the spot here. I don't even know if he has this with him. I wanted to get with him before the show, but
Adam's fault.
Do you have any photos, Adam, of your beast that you bring on the investigations?
Yeah, I do, but where they are on my of my multiple.
Please explain what the beast is.
The beast is really. It started out as I don't know if you've ever heard of David Roundtree. He wrote a book, paranormal book. And one of the most fascinating things I've read in the paranormal was his assertion that EVPs can only be captured. I believe it's on a dynamic mic, the mic with the microphone. I always mix the two up. There's dynamic and condenser.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think which one's the magnetic one. Anyway, let's say the dynamic mic. He asserts that because whatever we're dealing with, whether they be ghosts, spirits, maybe just some energy that we create, whatever it is, that because it's a magnetic pulse, when you have a magnetic microphone, that's how EVPs were caught. And back in the day, that's all they had. They didn't have like the dynamic that has a different setup. So that's how it started, because I have my Zoom here, and I took this Zoom, and it's got multiple channels, so I'm running the front microphones.
Yes.
I'm also using an entirely different style of microphone, and my goal was to prove him correct or incorrect by catching an EVP on one set of microphones only. Once that happened, it's proven, or it's disproven, one of the two. So that's kind of how it started. It's a camera stand. I wish I even had it. If I would have been more prepared, I could show you right here. It's got that. It's got probably 3 or 4 devices that hang off of it, and they're interchangeable. I put little screw holes in all my machines, so I can put a K2 on or a tri-field, the ghost box, whatever. So it's one big ass handheld unit of awesomeness. That's the best I can explain it.
You know what? I love the way you've described that. It's actually described properly. It's one big piece of awesomeness. That's the best way to do it, man. But again, we all have our own little ways of doing it, and you're forever going to get that. You're forever going to get the people who believe that maybe something you're doing is wrong, or maybe you're not doing something the right way it should be done. And you know what? Sod them people. We'll do it the best way we do it, and we do effectively. If you modified that amount to be able to accept your gear. I've got a bleeding camera rig. I've got a full-size camera rig with a Nikon camera and a light. Why did they get that? Because I'm sick of standing there holding my camera like that. So what I done was I got the mount and I just put a monopod on the bottom of it. I can just let go of it and it'll sit on my shoulder. They're what that noise is. Anyway, I just class it laziness.
Let me just clarify. Dynamic microphones are the one with the magnet.
Yeah.
And those are rarely found in anything. All of our Zooms, that's not there. The condenser mic is in that kind, and those use a capacitor, like a resistance thing. Yeah. So when air flows through it, you know what I'm talking about. So the dynamic mic is the one that supposedly, according to some people, is the only one that can catch EVPs. And if it's not on a dynamic mic, it's not heard because the other mics they're blind.
The difference.
EMF. They're just blind EMF completely.
There's one thing that Edge just pointed out before, and I never touched on the subject as much as I wanted to, and that was he mentioned the Rodeway mic, or the pickup mics, the magnetic mics. Now, Ed, have you got one?
I actually just bought a bunch of the crystals that I'm planning on making some.
Good man, good man, good man. I think where those microphones are concerned, I've got one. Have you ever used one? Have you, Adam?
Yeah, I do. I actually have one myself. I've never been able to catch anything from it, but I do have one and it's set up. It's on my rig.
Yes, well played. I was very surprised when I got mine because I know obviously it picks up via magnetism. I was very surprised to hear the way it sounded. And as I said, the places I've used mine on the top of a hill in the middle of nowhere, and I've heard stuff on it. And I've been very surprised by what I pulled off it, but I think, again, if it wasn't for people trying things like that, where would we be? So, to summarise where I've gone with all this entire mishmash of weirdness is, don't ever be afraid to try something. Don't ever be afraid to rip something apart. If it breaks, it breaks. You're going to break it either way because we're all clumsy people. Don't always think that your mobile phone's the worst thing in the world to take on an investigation. There's worse things you could take. Like that clumsy friend who's going to break your pieces of equipment. Like one of our friends who fell on my camera. I'll never let him down. And finally, it is possible to do it on the cheap. You don't have to spend thousands of pounds. You're going to get the same evidence on every camera. If something moves in front of you, if something makes a shuffling sound in the room, you're going to catch it. Doesn't matter what you use, just use them.
And the most basic thing that most paranormal groups, in my opinion, don't do correctly is an EVP session. They don't do it correctly. There's too much noise. So if for somebody starting out, they can buy a $50 recorder, go into a haunted place or somewhere they say it's haunted, sit there in silence and ask questions and let the recorder record. And they may come home and catch their first EVP, and that's bigger and more accurate than most ghost groups have out there with $10,000 worth of equipment.
Indeed.
In my opinion. So
I laughed my head off once when I done a very quick EVP session. When I say quick, I literally hit a voice recorder in a room and said, if anybody's here, talk in this room, we're going to leave you alone, leave you to safety. And I walked away and left it in the room, came back a couple of hours later, picked up the recorder, and I got nothing but noises and clanging of bars. And it was in an old jail cell, clanging of bars, people shouting help, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And when I realised in the next room there was a speaker making sound effects.
We did that. Ed has a device he made that it's a really neat device. It does, like, I can sit here and I can record, what is your name? What sex are you? I can record it, and I sit this down, and it asks questions out loud, and at the same time catches EVPs. So
yeah,
that's one of Ed's things. I won't steal his thunder. But that's happened to us before. We were in a mental hospital, and that was running in the background, and we're walking away from it. And then we come back about an hour later, and then we're all kind of like stopped. Like, did you hear that voice? Did you hear it? And it's Ed's machine in the other room.
So, yeah. Well,
that was the physical version of the AVPS I was telling you about, Bob.
Oh, that's brilliant. Can I make you feel a little bit better about the AVPS?
Sure.
Which, for everybody who doesn't know about it, it's an app that Ed's released, which is is releasing, that's absolutely amazing. Now, I field tested it yesterday, and I left it in our car. I wasn't going home yesterday in our car. I ended up going home in my father-in-law's car, and my wife took our car home because she had to drop some people off. When she got to the car, she could hear an American child asking questions. Can you imagine it now? She opens the door.
That's fucking epic, dude. That is epic.
I was proud of myself. I didn't tell her. I just let it happen.
Awesome.
Do you know what? She never even said nothing until I got home. Did you drive home with creepy kid voices coming out?
The creepiest, I think, of all the voices, I was messing with it today, is the old lady voice. She is angry. I was just like, God, she's angry. I don't know what I'm going to pick up with this. No offense, Ed, but she was angry.
Kurt, just so you know, that's our lead investigator's mother.
That was awesome. Today it got me. I was like in the museum, and I'm messing with the different voices, to try to see what would pick up in a place where three women, were real rich that lived never married. I'm like, well, how about the old lady voice? And then I heard it, and I was like, oh God, I just did not hear that.
Oh, Lord. I can't wait. Do you know what, right? I'm getting all the recordings I do on the AVPS, right? I'm going to get all the recordings together and give them to you, Ed. And I'm actually going to put it in the room with my kids and see what happens.
That's great.
That's going to be brilliant. I know my son's going to flap. My daughter's going to be talking to the toy box again. Yeah. I have Tim Burton children. They just love the dark and the macabre. But anyway, guys, right? I'm going to call it now. So this is the end. Thanks very much for coming on, Adam. You're welcome on the same as Ed. You're welcome on any time.
Yeah, as always, guys.
Just send me a message.
I'm always here, so I apologize.
No,
Ed's like, I've been doing this way too many times. I don't know.
Ed, you know what the worst part is? Ed started at a height on the screen, and he's slowly but surely gone.
He's all of a sudden he's going like this, but then he starts to vape.
Is that better?
Vaping.
No. I liked it better when you.
I like kicking back when I'm on, you know.
Yeah, and usually you're back like this, and usually you're back like chilled out like that.
I thought it was nothing but embarrassment of being seen talking to us. He's going.
Earlier in the broadcast, I saw your wife, Ed. She snuck by on accident. If you wouldn't even have known that.
No, I heard it in the background. So.
She actually no, she snuck behind you. She had a handgun. Don't know why. Pointed at you.
Well, that was pretty creepy. I saw that incident. Yeah.
Oh God! Right, and on that
Let's stay on a little while longer then. Let's stay on a little.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, just so we could like prove it actually happened, right?
Yeah, just
yeah, exactly. I need witnesses.
We're Ed's protection because the second we go off here, he's going to get beaten up. I reckon she's going to get him, kick him in the corner, just boot him all over the place. I feel bad for you, man. There's a number for people, especially get beaten up by the wives. Yeah. It's a sad world, man. Anyway, guys, good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye bye now.
Hey, bye.